Hi guys, welcome back to Lynette's Perspective. Thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate you clicking on the video. If you're new to my channel, I review reality TV shows on here for fun because the world is a dark and scary place right now, and sometimes I just want to lighten things up a bit. But enough about me, let's get into last night's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Now, let me tell you what I definitely did not like about this episode. I really did not like the end of this episode where Angela and Shamea were getting into it. I felt it was completely inappropriate. This was a mommy-daughter event. You had so many kids that were in attendance. You had all these little black girls all over the place walking around, clearly in earshot. So for these two mothers to not be able to, compose themselves or hold themselves together or separate, or just decide to just have this out somewhere else, maybe step outside or go, film this somewhere else. But for them to just get into it right then and there in front of all these little girls, that was completely unacceptable to me. I hated it. Hated that. I was embarrassed for them. I was embarrassed for the show. I hate when they do that on reality TV. Real quick though, before we get into more of this episode, if you all could do me a big favor and hit that like button if you enjoy the content, and be sure to hit that subscribe button while you're at it. It really helps out a lot. Thank you so, so much. Episode starts off with Britt, and to me, Britt comes off as a stereotypical kind of black woman most people associate with Atlanta. She comes across as very full of herself, bragging about how she's dated ball players and rappers and so on and so forth. She's so amazing. She's so fabulous. She's been popping since high school. She's been a video vixen since high school. And I'm like, ma'am, please stop bragging about being a video vixen since you were in high school. That is not a brag. She comes off as very shallow and superficial to me, maybe not to everyone else, but that's just my perspective. Anyway, we are in her large, beautiful home where she's enjoying this enormous spread with her family, this beautiful meal all prepared by a private chef. And I just dream one day of inviting all of my family over and having a meal prepared by a private chef. But anyway, she invites her husband's sister to come downstairs so they can talk in private. And Britt tells us that her father was very successful, but unfortunately he passed away. And she got together with her sisters to start a business. And my first thoughts about that were, family and business don't always tend to mix very well. And sure enough, she says her older sister couldn't deal with her anymore and just walked away. And then she had to fire her younger sister. So now their relationship is strained. And I feel like the sisters likely have their own version of events that don't paint Britt in a very good light at all. I'm not really buying Britt's version of events here. So far, I am just not a fan of hers at all. But let's move on. So after all the drama at Shamea's party, Portia decides to invite Kelli out to eat so they can sit down and address their issues. And tell me why I almost forgot about Kelli coming for Portia at that birthday bash. Guess the Drew drama just kind of overshadowed everything. But anyway, Kelli didn't seem to want any smoke with Portia. That was my interpretation of things. And things somehow got turned around to being Shamea's fault in all of this potentially. Like, Shamea didn't give Portia a heads up about what Kelli had said, and therefore Portia got ambushed once she arrived at the party by Kelli. I don't know. I think the whole exchange was just kind of off. It was weird. I mean, I'm glad they're not fighting because we no longer care about Kelli being like, Portia, why'd you steal that lady's husband? No one really cares about that anymore. But the way they started laughing and kikiing, I don't know, it just felt weird. Especially with Portia telling Kelli, like, I thought you were my troll, but now you're like my treasure troll. And I was just like, what is this? This is a mess. These ladies are a mess. But I do find it interesting that Portia refuses to answer that question. But I guess she's trying to control the narrative right now. Like, no, she won't be discussing how she got with Simon because she's too busy trying to paint herself as a victim, not the villain with this divorce. Now on to the scene with Drew in the studio. First and foremost, I really liked the song she was singing. She sounded good. She sounded fantastic. Usually I can't stand when reality TV people try and sing. It's like, oh Lord, please don't embarrass yourself. But not this time with Drew. I give her props for sure. Anyway, she sits down with the OGs, Cynthia and Kenya. And Kenya was coming out being very much Kenya in this scene. Glad to see it because we like the mess. And Angela was there to give her 2 cents as well. And Kenya is like, oh, is Dennis going to be here? Because everything that went down with Portia was crazy. And Drew goes on and on about how professional Dennis is. He's such a professional. He's nothing but the utmost professional. And Kenya is like, you up here defending him while he's out here making you look like a whore. And Cynthia was like, dang, using the whole word whore? God, I mean, at least you call her a hoe. That sounds a little bit better, has a little better ring to it than the word whore. Damn, Kenya, you doing too much. That was funny. But I don't know that I'm a real fan of the older OGs coming across like the older aunties or something, like coming in to dole out advice and to school the younger women on the show. I'm not really feeling this version of the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise, but I guess it was time. I mean, we can't hold on to this old cast forever, I guess. How do you all feel about the role that Cynthia and Kenya have on this show right now? Do you all like this? Drop down in the comments and let me know. Now, the next scene with Angela and her husband, Charles Oakley, former NBA player, was a very interesting part of the episode to me. First, I really love seeing Angela working on one of her properties. The house looked fantastic on the inside, and I love to see a woman making her own way and building wealth with her husband. She says she's trying to prove to him that she can handle working in real estate so that he'll trust her, I guess, with the money. I guess he's been funding these projects for her. Then she goes on to tell us he's not really down to finance their recommitment ceremony because the beginning of their marriage was such a mess. And Angela goes on to say that Charles Oakley got kicked out of Madison Square Garden because the owner of the team didn't like him. And the incident was so bad it caused problems in their marriage because they were just newly married. And I guess it was such a difficult time for them that they had to temporarily separate and live separately for a while. I mean, damn, I was like, well, what the hell happened at Madison Square Garden? I don't recall hearing that story. What she was saying didn't make much sense to me, again, because I wasn't familiar with this incident. So I went online and I pulled up this ESPN article, and I'm just going to read a little bit about what happened that night back in 2017 at Madison Square Garden. Former Knicks great Charles Oakley was arrested and charged with 3 counts of assault following an altercation in the stands near team owner James Dolan at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday night. A police source told ESPN that Oakley had purchased a seat a few rows behind Dolan and was making comments at the Knicks owner, who eventually had security escort him from the arena. What happened is me and 4 friends went to the game tonight to watch the Knicks and Clippers. We did sit down trying to have a good time. Next thing I know, I was asked to leave the building, Oakley said at a New York restaurant after his release from Midtown South Precinct shortly past midnight. I asked why, and they said, you have to leave because someone ordered you to leave. And I'm like, I've been here 4.5 minutes. Knicks president Phil Jackson came out to try and calm down Oakley, who was yelling at Dolan and telling security he wasn't going to move as they handcuffed him outside the tunnel leading to the court. At one point, Oakley was on the ground surrounded by police and Madison Square Garden security. According to the NYPD, Oakley, 53, punched 3 male Madison Square Garden employees, all of whom suffered minor injuries and refused medical attention at the scene. As he was being escorted out, he was charged with 3 misdemeanor counts of assault, all 3rd degree, and 1 count of criminal trespass, a 3rd degree misdemeanor. Oakley said he felt threatened by the security personnel. Whew, wow. I don't know what kind of relationship Charles Oakley had with the owner of the Knicks, but just from what I read, the little bit that I read, it did seem a bit excessive that I guess Charles Oakley was behind them making some sort of comments or saying something that the owner didn't like, but it seemed excessive that he would have the man escorted out of Madison Square Garden by security. But I don't know. You all let me know if you know about this incident or you have anything else to say about what happened. Drop down in the comments and let me know. Now on to some more housewives drama. Drew meets with her divorce lawyer like Portia did, and we find out that the divorce has not been finalized because her husband, Ralph, who's living in the basement, won't disclose his finances. He apparently has access to her money, but she doesn't have access to his. And I was like, girl, what? How does that work? And the lawyer goes on to say that the divorce filing, which was previously sealed, is about to be unsealed. So all this information about Ralph is about to come out, and she reads this long list of infractions, I don't know what better word to use, regarding his cheating and stalking Drew and tracking her, etc. It just all sounds horrific. It just sounds like it was just a horrible marriage. It makes him sound like a horrible person. Now, I don't know if all of this has already hit the blogs or not. I don't always stay on top of these types of things. Maybe I'm just late, but it sounds terrible. It sounds like another really nasty divorce like Portia's. So I don't know. And I know Drew was crying because she doesn't want her kids to find out all this information about her dad. But I'm like, girl, you're already on a reality TV show. They're already going to be exposed to so much information about you and your husband. I mean, really, you're not going to be able to shield them from much of anything. So, ooh, child, this episode was packed with so much information and so much drama. These housewives really go through a lot sometimes. But let's go ahead and move on to Kelli's charity event now that we're at the end of the episode. So Kelli has this fashion house called Balmont host her charity event. Of course, I've never heard of them, even though they're over there at Phipps Plaza. Anyway, it's a mommy-daughter event in support of OI. And I'm not going to attempt to say the full medical term correctly because I know that I can't say it properly. But OI is commonly known as brittle bones disease. And she tells the attendees to the event that CPS came to her home and wouldn't allow her to leave until her children were examined by a doctor because they must have thought she was mistreating or neglecting her daughters. But the doctor who examined her daughter, Kelli's daughter, diagnosed her with OI, and now Kelli is an advocate for this disease, making sure to raise awareness about it. And the mommies attending are asked to shop and buy some of these expensive items, child, and 10% of the proceeds are going to go to the charity. It's a great event. Love the mommies dressed up with their daughters. Love the cause. And I could have done without Angela and Shamea getting into it after Kelli's moving speech. That was a great speech that she gave talking about what she went through with her children. But of course, Angela tries to get things started with Shamea. She approaches Shamea like, I hate we got off on the wrong foot, referring back to the previous episode where they were at the gym. And Angela was just coming for Shamea. But anyway, now Angela is addressing Shamea at this event like, I hope we can talk sometime and iron things out. But clearly Shamea is not interested in hashing anything out or having a conversation with this lady. And the two of them quickly get into it. They throw out petty name calling. Shamea says Angela looks like LaToya Jackson with that nose, and she keeps coming for Angela's nose, and then Angela calls Shamea Flavor Flav. Now, normally I'm sitting back with my popcorn, just loving all the shade, whether it's good shade or bad shade. I'm usually always here for the mess, but like I said in the beginning, do not do this in front of your daughters, in front of all these little girls. It was embarrassing. It was cringe. And I like the fact that Kelli even tried to stand up for herself at her event, like, ladies, I know we're not doing this right here, right now. It is highly inappropriate. And I know that their daughters also had to be in attendance. So it just made them look even worse. It wasn't fun. It wasn't funny. Like I said before, I'm not here for that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And I hate when they do that on these reality TV shows. You should definitely keep it cute in front of the kids. But please drop down in the comments and tell me what you all thought about this episode. Did you think it was any good? Because I thought it was very interesting, this episode. Much more interesting than last episode. There was a lot more going on. But let me know what you all thought. Tell me how you felt about the Charles Oakley incident. Tell me how you felt about Shamea and Angela getting into it. How did you feel about Kelli's event? There was a lot to talk about. So let's talk. Let's get it started down in the comments. And again, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I so appreciate you for sticking with me. And again, if you enjoyed the content, please go ahead and hit that like button. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all again on the next video. Bye. When they look in my eyes, all they see is pain, but I don't care. Deep in my heart, all the feeling is pain, but I don't care, 'cause I am a winner. I'm telling myself, I know I can make it.